Sun
by Richard Wright.
So the book that we have here today is about Bigger Thomas, this colored young man from the south side of Chicago. He has caused enough trouble to be headed to jail since the beginning. He is thought to have gone for assault or robbery, but is instead going to jail for murder and rape.
Throughout this book, we see Bigger be notorious for not knowing how to deal with his internal and external problems properly. We encounter much racism and adultery, which has caused the book to have been banned at some point in time.
So, Native Son, written by Richard Wright, was originally published in 1940. The book was challenged by parents and school board staff in many states. Different states began banning it at different times. Some began at 1978 and others continued all the way to 1998. Parents made complaints and made teachers give their children different books. Native Son was banned for its use of violence, sexuality, and profanity. Many parents complained about the strong and graphic language.
As a group, we don't agree with the banning of this book, but we do agree that the book should be read by those who are able to understand the situation that goes on. As you read, keep in mind that this book is for mature readers. The book is very descriptive and intense, but has a powerful message to which we can understand how life and the thoughts of the colored people were in the 1930s.
So now let's talk about the story and ask some questions that we have about the book so we can better understand, especially the parts that were confusing. So, Harvey Mercedes, you start us off, please.
Okay, well, one of the characters that come up in this book is Mr. Dalton, a white man with the belief of giving colored people a better chance to live in the community. Why do you guys think he talks to Bigger about the changes he's made?
Well, I think he talks to him about it because of how both Bigger and Mr. Dalton, in a way, knew that he was trouble. So Mr. Dalton tries to get Bigger to feel, in a way, relaxed and comfortable around him by showing him how he's not like other white people who Bigger has probably encountered before, which can actually lead to for why Bigger acts the way he does.
So I agree with you, Jackie. I think Bigger was raised in a time where there was much racism against the African Americans, like for example the many cases of lynching and the cases where the African Americans were accused of robbery. So Bigger grew up feeling alone, angry, hopeless, and powerless. He always seemed to feel paranoid and felt like he had many short limits. Mr. Dalton wants to make Bigger feel comfortable with him in a way, which he knows he wouldn't with other white folks.
Well, I think Mr. Dalton talks to him about it because he wants Bigger to come to consensus about what his intentions are. He doesn't want him to feel inferior.
True, and now that you've mentioned it, this is also similar to how Bigger acts towards the communist groups such as with Mary, Mr. Dalton's daughter, and Jan, Mary's boyfriend, who are both part of the communist group. Although it seems that they just want to help Bigger, he doesn't want to trust them. Why is that so?
Oh, well, Bigger sees them as a small ray of hope, and therefore he feels nervous, I guess. He knows that his people have always been mistreated, and there hasn't been much justice for them. He wants to trust them, but isn't sure he should. He isn't used to this new kindness coming from the white people.
Yeah, he also doesn't want to trust them because of how their society is between colored and white people.
Great, I agree. And well, another question I was wondering about is, why do you think Bigger keeps mentioning how everyone around him is so blind?
I was wondering the same thing too, and I think the reason for that is because he feels that no one really knows what he did in regards to the murder that he committed, which makes him feel a little more powerful in a way because everyone else is blind to what he did, and it makes him feel like everyone else is blind because nobody knows that he committed the murder or that he even killed Mary.
True, he only thought other people were blind, but he starts realizing he's the blind one for not thinking of the consequences. Also, Mrs. Dalton was literally blind, and that's why Bigger turned to violence and killed Mary in the first place, so that she wouldn't make any noise in her mother's presence. This makes me connect to how white people never saw black people as being their same level or as individuals. But Bigger took long to realize that black people were also blind for not wanting help from the white people.
Oh, awesome! I think I get it now. You mean to say that Mrs. Dalton represents the way that all of these people are so blind about each other's individuality. They sort of saw each other as something else, and this really made everyone's life much more difficult. He also feels more powerful because everyone thinks he's innocent and ignorant. So, in my opinion, I think this book is an amazing piece of literature. Richard Wright did an awesome job at reflecting America's racist history. This book can form part of a larger picture. Don't you agree, Jackie?
Yeah, and I also think that the stuff that we have talked about here gives an entire explanation of why this book should be included in high schools or in libraries, because it basically gives a good message and a good explanation of how life was back then, which is basically able to show or open people's minds, especially in a time like today where there is much racism going around. And it's important to consider different points of view and not just jump straight to conclusions.
Well, yeah, it's like how everyone has a different story that needs to be heard. In this case, Bigger lived a miserable life which led him to make miserable actions he knew he couldn't take back. He knew he was black and he knew that no one would ever believe what he had to say either way. Especially not the white community. He believed their criticism but didn't find the point of trying to prove them wrong. He knew all the meager options he was left with and he felt hopeless. And even in today's world, everyone faces their own struggles.
That is exactly why I think that if everyone read this, we might be able to understand each other much better. Some might see this in a negative way at first, but the way the story builds up is pretty intense and may help change our minds and hearts. There are many stereotypes that are shown here, and the division between races are very, very obvious. This is something that we can see very often today too. So in today's world, we can notice that there are still cases of injustice that don't let us move forward, like Bigger when he couldn't attend the school that he wanted to attend. There are many sad things like Bigger's case, but still we see small rays of hope for humanity. There are groups of people that are trying to bring peace and equality for everyone. So this book can be an eye-opener. It can show us how we need to put ourselves in each other's shoes. This book, if looked at closely, can show us how we need to always be open-minded and stop jumping to conclusions. We also need to ignore the stereotypes.
So maybe we should stop being blind of our actions and those of others and open our eyes to what the reality of our world is.
That's it, guys.
I hope you enjoyed it.
And we highly recommend